My name is Monique Rhodes, and I help people transform their relationship with their mind so that they can get unstuck and feel calmer and happier. My programs are taught in colleges and universities around the world and in Fortune 500 companies. And here I teach what I used to heal my own life. You'll get simple, doable practices, real conversations about what actually changes your happiness so that you can be happier from the inside out. Let's get into it. All right, you know that feeling when your mind is just full, like you've got 12 browser tabs open in your head and you just can't quite close any of them. You know that feeling when you sit down to work or you sit down to relax and instead you just scroll or you drift or you start messages that you don't finish or you think thoughts that you can't quite catch. Here's the wild solution. This solution might be sitting in your drawer right now. It's a solution that I use every single day. A notebook, a pen, and 15 minutes. Because here's what they're discovering in neuroscience labs. And this is going to sound almost too simple. But when you write by hand about what's going on inside you, your brain literally starts to rewire itself. And not just emotional relief. We're talking about building protection against dementia, extending your cognitive lifespan, and actually making your brain work better decades from now. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share isn't just about journaling, it's about longevity. But before we go any further, I just want to let you know that I have an amazing quiz. Go to iintendtobehappy.com. Let's check your happiness levels and you'll get a personalized report so we can see how happy you are. All right, let's start with what's actually happening inside your skull when you pick up that pen. So brain scans are showing something really remarkable. When people write about their feelings, like really write, not type, but physically move their hand across paper, two regions in your brain that usually don't talk much start having a conversation. All right? So I want to tell you what they are. The prefrontal cortex, which you've heard me talk about before, that's your reasoning center. That part helps you plan, helps you think clearly. And the other part that we talked about, that's the amygdala. That's your emotional headquarters. That's the part that reacts when you're stressed or when you're scared. Now, this is what happens. These two, they start synchronizing. So it's like your brain is finally learning to talk to itself. So I found a study from Stanford University from 2021. And what it found was that expressive writing actually helps your brain recover from stress. So there's this area in your brain called the mid-cingulate cortex. And normally it's firing like crazy when you're under pressure. But after writing, it calms down. It gets more coordinated. And get this, when you put emotions into words, another part of your brain switches on, all right? That is the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. And its job, quietening down that overactive amygdala. So scientists call this affect labeling. Basically, it means you can feel your feelings without drowning in them. This is why I write every single morning, have done for years and years and years. All right, I want to tell you something about where this gets really interesting for your long-term brain health. Because there was a study done in 2024 in Frontiers in Psychology, and they showed that handwriting activates way more areas of your brain than typing does. So when your hand moves with your thoughts, your brain slows down just enough to make sense of itself. And that physical connection, pen to paper thought, it's creating neural pathways. It's building what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve. So I want you to think of cognitive reserve like a savings account for your brain. The more you build it now, the more protection you'll have later. All right? So I want to tell you also that I do this all the time when I'm working. I don't have digital lists or anything. Everything is handwritten. I have a book right beside me and a pen and paper, and I am writing all day long because I know the importance of it. All right? So let's talk about dementia. I know this isn't the cheeriest topic, but here's why it matters. Right now, over 55 million people worldwide are living with dementia, and that number is expected to nearly triple by 2050. If you're watching this, you probably know someone affected by it, or you're thinking about your own future. So here's the thing about dementia that most people don't realize. It's not an on-off switch. It's not like one day your brain just stops working. Your brain is being shaped every single day by what you do with it. In fact, I was listening to an expert the other day who said that Alzheimer's starts in your 30s. So what you're doing in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s is going to have a massive effect on your brain as you get older into the 70s and 80s where dementia and Alzheimer's can hit. All right? And writing's one of the most powerful brain building activities we know of. There was a systematic review published in 2024 and it looked at writing-based therapies for people who had mild cognitive impairment and dementia. And what they found was that activities like journaling, storytelling, even poetry, they don't just help emotionally, they enhance your memory, they enhance your connection, and they enhance something that we call executive function. That's your brain's ability to plan, to focus, and to get things done. But here's what really got me when I was looking into the research about this. Writing by hand increases brain connectivity. So it literally strengthens the connections between different regions of your brain. And research shows that people who sustain language activities throughout their life, including journal writing, have reduced risk of developing dementia. Found another study from the Cache County Memory Study in Utah. They looked at people who had kept journals throughout their lives. And do you know what they found? The people who journaled, especially people who used more complex language, which means longer words, more varied sentence structures, they had lower rates of Alzheimer's disease later. So writing wasn't just helping them process emotions, it was building cognitive resilience. I found another study from the Columbia University. This study found that people who couldn't read or write had nearly 3 times the risk of dementia compared to people who could. So think about that. The simple act of engaging with written language, like reading it, writing it, was protecting their brains. You know how big I am about reading. I have a big thing about reading. I try and read 52 books every year because I know how good it is for my brain. I know how good it is for my focus. But this is not just about literacy. It's about keeping your brain active in a very specific way. So when you write by hand, not just recording information, what you're doing is you're engaging visual processes, you're engaging motor skills, you're engaging spatial awareness, you're engaging memory recall all at once. So you're forcing your brain to coordinate multiple systems. And that coordination, from what I can understand, that's exactly what keeps your brain flexible and resilient as you age. Okay? So you're convinced. All right, writing is good for your brain. But of course, the big question is, how do you actually do this? Because I have a number of students who have come to me and said to me, how do I do this work? Like, how do I learn to journal? I'm not a writer. I don't know what to say. Won't it just be awkward? So let me give you 3 techniques that are backed by research. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need all 3. You just need the one that fits what you need right now. Okay, technique number 1 is expressive writing. This is for when your emotions feel heavy. So this comes from a psychologist by the name of James Pennebaker, and it's probably the most studied form of journaling in existence. Here's how it works. Think about something that you're still carrying emotionally. So a disappointment, a loss, a moment that just lingers, something that takes up space in your mind. Put your phone away, all right? Put your phone away. I have a little mechanical timer that people tease me about. Little mechanical timer, and you put that on, set that timer for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Just write about it. Don't worry about grammar. Don't edit as you go. Don't write for anyone else. This is just for you. And write until you run out of words. Now, here's why it works. So your brain treats emotional suppression like unfinished business. So it constantly is using energy to keep that door closed. All right? And what writing does is it completes the loop. So instead of having to put all that energy into trying to keep that thing suppressed, writing lets you process what you've been holding on to. So there's studies that are showing that after expressive writing sessions, people's emotional brain center literally quietens down and their cognitive control increases. So this means that your body is feeling lighter because your mind stopped trying to contain what it's finally released. You might cry, you might feel tired, you might want to stop halfway through. That's okay, that's actually normal. But I need you to know that healing requires a little discomfort before the calm arrives. All right, technique number 2, gratitude journaling. This is for when you feel a little bit numb or a little bit distant. So imagine a different kind of page. Instead of releasing pain, you're anchoring your presence. Every day, write down 2 or 3 things you're grateful for. But here's the thing, be specific. So not, I'm grateful for my friend, but I'm grateful for the way my friend listened without trying to fix me when I was quiet yesterday because I felt seen. So these details matter. Gratitude journaling doesn't force positivity. What it's doing is it's retraining your attention. So neuroscientists have found that practicing gratitude activates specific regions of your brain. All right? These are the regions that regulate your mood and your motivation. When you do this daily, as I do, you're teaching your brain to look for what's stable instead of what's threatening. So this isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about balance. So it's about helping your nervous system remember that not everything's falling apart. And over time, this practice, which is so amazing, it's a practice that I teach in the first week of the happiness baseline because it's so powerful. This practice actually tunes your nervous system toward resilience. Doesn't erase struggle, it helps you see beyond it. All right, technique number 3, reflective reframing. So this is when your life is feeling confusing. This one is my personal favorite because it builds the kind of thinking that changes how you handle everything. So here's the structure. You start with a challenge, something that happened recently, and you write what happened plainly, without judgment. And then you write, what did this mean? Like, what did it reveal? What did it teach me? And finally you ask yourself, what's one small action I can take next time? I love this because this pattern strengthens the prefrontal regions that regulate your emotional reactivity. So you're literally building the ability to pause and reinterpret before you react. And you know I'm all about that. So over time, this practice reshapes how you see difficulties. They stop being failures. They start being data points for growth. And that shift, that changes how your brain responds to future stress. So you're not just processing the past, you're reprogramming your future responses. Okay, so how do you make this a habit? Firstly, you don't need to use all 3 techniques every day. Think of journaling a little bit like cross-training for your mind. So I would use expressive writing when you're feeling emotionally heavy, when you can't stop thinking about something and it's taking up a lot of space in your brain. I would use gratitude journaling either on a daily basis or when you're feeling a little bit numb. So if everything's feeling a little grey or distant, or when you've lost connection to what's good in your life. But I do gratitude journaling every day. And I would use reflective reframing when your life feels confusing. So you don't know what to do next, or you need to make sense of what's happening. All right? And then the rest of the time, just write. Just sit and write. Set a timer, just sit and write. Start small. So even 5 minutes a day makes a difference. And here's what's going to happen. Over weeks, maybe months, you're going to notice changes. You'll pause longer before you react to things. You'll remember conversations more clearly. You're going to recover from stress more quickly. Your handwriting becomes the trace of your mind learning to heal itself. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about feeling better today. I want you to understand that this is about your brain 20, 30, 40 years from now. Remember all of that cognitive research that I mentioned earlier? Every time you write, you're depositing into that account. So you're strengthening neural pathways. You're building connections that are going to help your brain compensate if other areas start to decline. So research on cognitive reserves show that people who engage in mentally stimulating activities through their lives, like reading, writing, learning new things, they maintain much better cognitive function as they age. Even if they develop problems with their brain, they often don't show symptoms as early or as severely. So it's like your brain has got these backup systems, these alternative routes, these more resources that you can draw from. And writing by hand specifically, this is one of the best activities for this because it engages so many systems at once. Visual, motor language, memory, emotion, all of these are coordinating, all of these are strengthening. And the studies are even showing that handwriting analysis may be able to detect early signs of cognitive decline years before symptoms appear. Because the complexity of your writing, the control you have over your hand movements, these reflect the health of multiple brain systems. And here's the flip side. We're losing this. So kids aren't learning to write anymore, and adults are typing everything. So we're replacing this multi-system workout with one-dimensional keyboard tapping. And I know that typing's got its place, but it's not giving your brain the same workout. It's not building the same reserve. So I want to ask you something. When was the last time you actually wrote by hand? Not a grocery list, not a quick note, but really wrote. So if it's been a while, I get it, because we've all been swept up in this digital age. But if I told you that those 15 minutes with a pen and paper might be one of the most important things you do for your future self, then I hope you'll think about doing it. Because we think of journaling as self-expression, and it is, but it's also self-construction. Every word you write is a small act of neuroplasticity. This is a quiet experiment in honesty and adaptation. So here's my challenge to you. Try it for 1 week. Just 1 week. Pick whatever technique resonates with you, expressive writing, gratitude, or reflective reframing. Spend 10 to 15 minutes with your pen in your hand. Don't judge what comes out. Don't worry about whether you're doing it right. Just write. And pay attention to what changes. You might sleep better. You might think more clearly. You might just feel a little bit lighter. Your brain is listening. It's responding. It's building new pathways with every single sentence. And decades from now, when other people your age are struggling with their memory, with focus, with cognitive decline, you just might be the one who's still sharp. You might be the one who's still engaged. You might be the one who's still fully yourself. Just because you took 15 minutes a day to let your brain talk to itself. So grab a notebook, find a pen that feels good in your hand, and the next time you sit down, don't ask, what should I write? Just ask, what's my brain trying to tell me? And then listen. If you haven't taken that happiness quiz yet, please do. iintendtobehappy.com. Understanding where you are in your happiness journey is the first step to building a better life. So the link's in the description. And if this resonated with you, if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Because brain health isn't something we talk about enough. And it's something we should all be thinking about while we still can. Thanks for being here. Now go and write something. As always, be kind, take care, go gently in the world.